This is genius.
This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
I've never seen so many mullets in my life.
No, it's just about feeling good.
You had more chins than a Chinese phone book for a while.
Man.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah. I mean, he's right. He said, Goonies never say die. We're going.
We got this.
All right.
I was pulling the trigger, but the safety was on.
I just Randy Black Eagle.
That's it. Boom.
That's my.
That's how we roll. Just drop the mic and walk away.
Logan hunted with Aaron.
Logan doesn't know better, so she thinks I'm good at it.
Yeah. What is hunting, together with your wife? How's that change your relationship?
I think she actually understands partially why I obsess about it and think about it nonstop. I think it helps her understand that a little bit, and it's brought us definitely closer.
And Logan is spiking her Sitka gear. She's just throwing her clothes into the washing machine. Mm-hmm. And she's like, this scent control stuff is bullshit, but it's like Santa Claus. If you don't believe, you don't receive. And she's throwing it in there. Like, the number one thing if you want your spouse to do it is understand what they want to get from it and understand that may be very different than what you want to get from it.
What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that new couples make when they're hunting together?
100%. I think that people, you have to truly be at peace with not killing anything and not having any sort of success that you would normally define as success.
Hello, folks. On this episode of Gritty Bowmen, I was able to hang out with my friends from Rockhouse Motion, Aaron Hitchins, Dustin Lutt, and Logan Ross. Sometimes you meet someone whose work you've admired or an individual you've looked up to because of the message they've shared or the principles they stand for. And so, in your mind, you've built them up into something special. And then you meet them and you're utterly disappointed. They're not who you thought they were, and you feel totally let down. But then there's the opposite. You meet that person and they're even cooler than you expected. They're a breath of fresh air, and you feel fortunate to have met them. Well, that's how I feel about Rockhouse Motion. They're remarkably talented, quirky, creative, deep-thinking, down-to-earth folks that I feel blessed to know. On this episode of Gritty Bowmen, we talk about Logan's hunting season. Being a new hunter who has never killed an animal, we talk about our thoughts and experiences from this past season. Dustin shares his thoughts on having a wife who hunts, and we learn a little more about the stark differences in personality between Dustin and Aaron and how they hunt differently. This is a late-night conversation in a hotel room after pulling some long days at the ATA show earlier this year. I thoroughly enjoy these late-night conversations I get to have with excellent people. Sit in and take a listen. And if you haven't seen their films or are not familiar with their work, go check out the film Beyond the Roar. You'll be glad you did. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Bowmen podcast. It is late-ish, on the last day of the ATA show in Indianapolis, Indiana. My wits are sharp, though, and I am. Don't even look at me. Aaron Hitchins is giving me that look like I've slipped into some kind of radio voice.
Sharp wit and a spry tongue. I'm Brian Call here, calling the shots.
That's right, my friend. And I am here with Rockhouse Motion, some of the team from Rockhouse. Mm-hmm. Okay, I wish Matt were here. And we're here to talk about some things that, we just want to hang out, really. That's what I want to do tonight. But Aaron would like us to pursue a topic. So, whatever. And so we're going to do that. And we got Dustin.
Yes.
Dustin, how do you say your last name?
Lutt, L-U-T-T.
Lutt. Dustin Lutt. Logan.
Ross.
You know my last name?
Call.
It's too easy. That's why.
Or
Okay.
maybe I just remember.
So we're here with Dustin Lutt and Logan Ross. And Logan and Aaron, you hunted together, and you are, what are you guys? Couple?
Yeah. We
You're a couple.
We live together at a wedlock, very blissfully.
All right.
I would say it's somewhat romantic.
Okay.
Very practical.
So you are, would you say you're in love?
I would say Logan is very lucky to have me.
I hate you.
So you
say
guys
that
have a
on-
real
don't say that
special
on the internet.
relationship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes couples, you guys hunted together this year. So we're going to
Yeah.
talk about that because sometimes couples hunt together and it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. So I would like to learn about, talk about your season this year and how do you guys get along? How do you not get along? I would like to hear about the epic failures too, not just the bliss. And what you think are some of the things that, some advice for those that are just now dating and beginning to hunt together and so on. What are some of the stumbling blocks that people come across, the hurdles that they've got to overcome? And so we'll get into that. And Dustin, your wife hunted this year.
She did. Yep. She shot her first buck with a bow this year.
Move that mic right in there.
Is that good?
In the corner, though. Otherwise, you might have breathing.
Breathing on it.
Yeah.
How's that?
Good. So she hunted for the first time this year
She did. Yep.
and shot a.
Whitetail buck. Nice 4x4. Like December
Nice.
29th. Just a couple days left in the season.
Wow. How does that make you feel, Logan?
I also hate you. No, it's great.
No, Logan, you hunted hard,
I did.
but this was not.
Not
your
my
year.
season. So now I have to wait.
Would
It
you
was kind of
say
your season?
not to throw gasoline on this painful, this ignite a fire here, but would you blame Aaron for this? It's simple. It's
Well,
pretty easy.
Beside the fact that he calls too much. No, I'm just kidding. That's a big mess.
Which I asked Logan before the podcast started. I was like, "What really gets Aaron off? What could maybe
There's one
tick
thing,
him off?"
and that is it.
And she's like, "Talk about whether he calls too much." I just think it's awesome. So you're sensitive about that, are
Yeah.
you?
I'll show you some pictures of some elk and ducks and geese and moose
Turkeys, no.
and turkeys, and you can ask them if I call too much, and they'll say yes because they ain't alive no more.
I wouldn't blame Aaron at all. He put me in every best opportunity to be successful. I think that there's just
It's a huge exaggeration.
No, you did though. We had a 5x5 elk come in
Yes.
that cow called in on a string. That's something that's incredible. And then we had some muley stalks, and he hung tree stands and spots that I had opportunities on whitetail. It was my first season hunting, and I made some rookie mistakes and definitely learned from them. And going forward, I think I'll have more success. But there's nothing to blame for why I wasn't successful. People are like, oh, well, it was a really hard season for elk because the rut wasn't on. It's like, well, no, I had an elk there. I just messed up. That's it. You can't blame external situations for your own shortcomings.
Is that kind of how you took it, Aaron? Or did you feel some responsibility for not making it happen?
Oh, I mean, my goal coming into the season was simply to make Logan, or not make, but hopefully encourage her to fall in love with hunting and fishing the way that I have.
Yeah.
And it started with fishing, and it was successful. And when hunting season started, it was an interesting sort of crossroad for me because it's my first time hunting in the West. And it's, I have a full roster of tags, and, right from day one, it was immediately the plan was to have Logan succeed. And through that, I learned a lot about what I like about hunting. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about what she likes and does not like about hunting. And I think that I got better as a hunter and called in, I think collectively we really appreciate a lot of the friendships we had that enabled us to do some of the stuff we did. But I think that the big thing is to understand that the things that make you, the number one thing if you want your spouse to do it is understand what they want to get from it and understand that may be very different than what you want to get from it. And
so how was that different for you two?
Well, no, I mean, Logan has her own pace that she likes to travel at.
It's a lot slower. Mm-hmm. I get there and I don't stop, but it's not quite the same click that Aaron would walk
and she
at.
really likes Mountain House. But you
What?
I love snacking. I love food. So like Mountain House with my jet boil, my Mountain House for my best friends. I'm like, oh well, it's lunchtime. Oh well, it's like second lunch. Oh, is it dinner yet? Let's keep eating.
Was that just Aaron's told some gritty tips on how to stall when you're tired, and so things like stopping to pee, stopping to eat, getting a drink of water, stopping the glass. They're all excuses, but really the end goal was to stop.
Mine's just to avoid hanger. So I get super hangry, and that's a big thing. Like where I'm like, well, like I want to keep enjoying my day, so I should eat before I become nasty, and that was a big thing about it. But I really enjoyed, for me, seeing the animal was really important, which that can change for people. So like mule deer hunting was a big one because mule deer, like you find it and you're like, okay, like we got it now, like let's plan our stalk, let's go, let's do our stalk, I wanted to see it. I wanted to glass it for a while. I'm like, okay, it's right there, like we don't need
this is all
like,
new.
like it's all new, like I want to know like how it's bedded. I want to watch it for a bit. Like I didn't want to just
rush
spot and then go. And so that was, I think, really different because other people we hunted with, like it's that's not the tradition.
Yeah,
the
goal
goal
animal
is
dead.
Exactly, and like as efficiently as possible. But for me, that was my goal. But a big part of it was being able to see, and so that was what I would be most excited about when I could, see cow elk that I knew I wasn't going to shoot, but like I would just want to watch them instead of like continuing on. It's like there's an animal right there. Like I want to watch it, and I think that was something that was different. And Aaron,
I can see that.
Yeah, Aaron was super accommodating to that, which was really great. Like, and he hung my tree stand in an area that I could see really far, even if I couldn't shoot that far, just in case deer walked by. Like I could see them at 90, 100 yards away, and that was really neat to be able to have that as part of my experience.
I mean, if you're somebody that spent a lot of time in a tree stand, seeing it, a doe and two fawns at 90 yards is not like,
yeah,
it doesn't just bring it all home.
No.
But for me, that would get my heart racing, even though I knew I wasn't going to shoot them. Like, it was like, oh my goodness, there they are. They're right there. So.
No, I can see that. I hunted with Aaron this year, and we were out there on a 4th season mule deer hunt, and he was giving me crap about it today because this mule deer is up on this hillside, and it's a beautiful buck, and I haven't really hunted mule deer that much. And we're in a unit that took me like 8 years to draw the tag for. So I'm not, I mean, it's like a 170-inch buck, and I'm thinking that's a neat deer. I don't want to shoot the first one. This is day 2, but still it hasn't been that many days. There's still more left. So I'm watching the deer, and Aaron's like, you might want to, I mean, if you're going to shoot it, you need to shoot it. And I'm looking around going, or we could just watch it, and I could film it. And then we could look for other deer too, and maybe I'll shoot it. And then I decided, like, okay, now I'll shoot it. And right after I decided, all these shots go off and the deer scatter, and we're scrambling to try to take this shot now. But now the chance is kind of over. Man, did I take some heat for that? I should have just said no, and then I wouldn't take so much heat. But still, part of me is like you, Logan. I didn't want to shoot it yet. I wanted to watch it for a while. I wanted to just take it in, look around, and in hindsight, I did not shoot a deer nearly that large, but I didn't care because I got so many more days of hunting and time out in the woods than I would have had I filled that tag on day 2.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had no shortage of time out in the woods for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just
is that a veiled complaint?
Pardon? No, absolutely not. I love the amount that we got to hunt this year.
Super fortunate this fall.
But yeah, it's just a totally different approach because it's like, the elk that we called in that eventually we got Logan had an opportunity on.
Yeah.
We saw it, and my immediate reaction isn't like, okay, Logan, go down there, get set up, I'll call, and he'll come in. My immediate thing is, man, I need to make this thing bugle so Logan can hear bugle. Like why would you just try and make some bugle that you can perfectly see? Like that doesn't matter. But then it bugled. She started crying.
I was really overwhelmed. We had hunted.
Snap out of it.
It was my 13th, 14th day of hunting. Yeah, you shot yours on the 11th. No, more than that?
13th.
13th.
Yeah.
And so it was a while in, and it was a hard elk season. They weren't bugling. I'm like, what are they, like unicorns? Like, they don't exist. I'm not seeing any. I'm not hearing any. Everyone's talking about how they're just like go crazy and are screaming. And then I was like, oh, well, it's an off year. I was like, of course it's an off year. Like, this is my first season hunting. This is my first animal I'm hunting. And so it was grueling. And then when we finally saw that elk and it bugled, it was just such an overwhelming feeling for me, because it's like, oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
it happened. There we go. That was what we were looking for, and that was what we
For her,
were hoping.
the end game was like, oh, we found an elk, and I'm like, this is where
the
this
start.
begins. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dustin, from the outside looking in,
Yes.
how would you say their season went?
They got a ton of hunting time, and I'm pretty jealous. I've got kids and family at home. I can't
And
complain.
you built a house.
I got a lot of hunting in, but
Yeah.
to be quite honest, I'm pretty jealous. They spend a lot of time together. As far as my wife and I, if we don't have a babysitter, it's one of us hunting. We'll get to hunt it together a lot. I'll watch the kids. She'll watch the kids. I'll go type deal. But yeah, I mean, I'm super happy for them. It's a pretty special thing they got going.
So you've hunted with Aaron, but not Logan.
No, I don't believe I have hunted with Logan.
But you have hunted with Aaron.
Yes. Yeah. We've.
How much time have you spent hunting with Aaron?
Well,
A couple days, or
Well, about that. Was it the first year you were with us at Rockhouse?
Yeah.
Game of Inches?
okay.
Second, I think it's second.
Second year?
So my question is, you've spent some time with Aaron. Do you find it difficult a little bit to hunt with Aaron, or is it like a breeze? What's it like hunting with Aaron? Because Logan hunted with Aaron.
Logan doesn't know better, so she thinks I'm good at it.
Yeah.
Logan doesn't know any better. What do you think, Dustin?
Well, I mean, I grew up archery hunting and very particular on what I do when it comes to whitetail hunting and my strategies. And Aaron grew up rifle hunting and duck hunting, a lot of camaraderie, and likes to have fun, which is not a bad quality. But when I want to get in the stand and be serious and be quiet, Aaron can push my buttons. It's pretty easy.
If you were to imagine, like, when Dusty's in a tree stand and he's on his game day, his buttons are like playing Twister. They're just everywhere. They're huge. It's like, oh, I farted. Room's ruined.
Hunt over.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty funny that filming for Game of Inches. I think both of us have moved more towards Dusty probably sees things a little differently than he did then, and I definitely see things differently than I did then. But at the time, we certainly had a very different approach, and it's pretty funny, man. It was, we had.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah. What's the scent spray that we
Nose jammer.
Nose jammer. Every time.
100% success rate. I can personally attest that every time I've sprayed nose jammer myself, I've shot a buck. So
it smells
One
like
time.
cupcakes. I refuse to use it. but-
One time. Dusty's a purist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Definitely.
That's interesting. You did spray it on you, and
like a lot. I mean, I'm talking.
He would purposely douse me when I wasn't looking. He'd carry it in his pocket and would be walking away. He'd spray me with it.
Just jamming noses, bro.
dude. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a purist too. I'd want to kill him.
Yeah.
Look, well,
It was
Logan.
fun though. It was a good year.
Logan doesn't know any better, so you're spraying her down with
No.
stuff like that.
The highlight of the moment when I knew that Logan was like deeply in trouble as far as her hunting interest. I'm working in the office at our house, and I'm walking down the hallway, and I turn and Logan is spiking her Sitka gear. She's just throwing her clothes into the washing machine. Mm-hmm. And she's like, this scent control stuff is bullshit, but it's like Santa Claus. If you don't believe, you don't receive. And she's throwing it in there. Like, absolutely zero belief that washing her clothes is important, but she's doing it anyways. So,
For me, I guess I'm in control, but like, you're a human. You sweat.
Yeah.
You're gonna smell. If your breath's bad, like if they can smell, like if deer can smell as well as everyone thinks, like
Man,
no
it
matter
sounds like
what.
a cop out, so you don't have to wash anything.
Exactly. But I was so determined to be successful that I was going to do anything that
It took.
and so I was washing my clothes every night.
It's probably a pretty substantial exaggeration.
But still, I know what you mean.
I got in the stand
When it was dark, like
when
you're
it was
supposed
dark,
to.
and then I stayed in my stand till it was dark. I hunt in Alberta.
That's the idea, right, Dusty?
That's a long sit.
But
It
no.
was the longest sit ever. I got down once to pee, and I'm like, and I had to because I was like, I'm gonna fall out of this tree if I try to maneuver this as a lady up here.
How does this crew feel about that? By the way, like peeing out of your stand and stuff. Is that like a major no-no, or does it not matter? Or what?
That's Dustin.
Dustin.
I think I used to, pee in a bottle all the time. I would never pee out of the tree stand. Then, Aaron. I pee out of the stand now. Aaron changed me. I think it's. I've got to where I'll pee in a scrape every once in a while, and
Man, that was
crazy.
yeah. I actually hung a camera on made a little fake scrape and peed in it, and like deer just like, oh, what are you doing?
Well, that's because whitetail are dumb. Just kidding.
Yeah,
just kidding, whitetail people.
What I would do is measure your distance from Dustin before you say anything like that. Because
I've hunted a lot of blacktails, and same thing. I use a lot of the same tactics. I try to learn from whitetail hunters because the deer, especially in the city bucks and stuff, and on private property and in the town, they definitely exhibit a lot of those same whitetail-ish behaviors, and the tactics that whitetail hunters use work really well on blacktail. So, at least the ones, that are not roaming the mountains and stuff. So, tell me about your wife's experience this year. Was she with you when she shot her at?
No, she was by herself. I left work early about 2:00 and waited for the kids to get home, and she took off on her own and sat in a ground blind that I put up for her a couple of days earlier. And it's Kansas. You can bait there, so it's corn that she was hunting over. And I have a cell phone camera on the pile, so I knew there was deer coming there.
Yeah.
Dusty's watching live feed of the
I was
deer.
watching live feed at home with the kids, basically. So I knew. I mean, she had bucks in front of her, and she actually had a nice 4x4 with a drop tine in front of her for about 20 minutes. I mean, 15 yards right in front of her, and never had a clear shot. She never. I was going nuts because I'm watching this, and she never shot. And next thing I know, all the deer are gone. They're not on the camera. So something happened, but I never got a call, and I went and picked her up at dark, and she had another buck chase that one off, and it was a younger buck. But my biggest fear for her the whole time was making a lethal shot. I mean, my first experience when I was 12, when I shot a deer with my bow was not. I mean, it was a spine shot, and it was not, beautiful by any means. And she's pretty sensitive. Wasn't sure if she wanted to shoot a deer. She was fine with turkeys, but deer was something different. And bless her heart, she smoked it. I was just thrilled. She put a lot of time in. I was pumped.
How did she feel about it?
She, well, the reason I never got a call, she's so nervous, shaking. She got the adrenaline rush, so she's hooked. She's ready for next year. So
did she? Was it hard for her, or was she surprised by how she felt about it, or she braced herself for it, or because taking a life when you haven't done it before. Yeah, for some people it's like a new phase of life, right? It's a big change,
right? Well, we eat venison like crazy. I mean, and I think that kind of helps her deal with it,
Yeah.
And the fact that she made a good shot and it was quick, it didn't die on her side. It ran out and got behind some cedar trees, and so she didn't know, which also drove her crazy. But the fact that it only ran 35 yards and tipped over, like it was tying stuck in the dirt, legs in there is obvious. That thing fell over.
Didn't suffer much.
Yeah, so she was pretty comfortable with that. But it's hunting. There's bound to be a time. The more you hunt, it's not going to go right sometime.
Yeah.
So that experience still has to happen for her, but having a good one for her to start out with, I think
that's awesome.
Currently pretty comfortable.
What I think is so awesome is how you were able to make it happen for your wife, but Aaron was not able to make it happen for Logan.
Yeah, that's not really where I thought you were going to go with that, but fair enough.
No,
I was just sitting here like, please ask Logan how she dealt with killing something for the first time. Please ask, and then you just spun that, and here I am.
Yeah, no,
it's true.
The truth is, I was gonna move on to that because on the last podcast, Logan voiced some concern about killing an animal, like some reservations.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna feel when you have a new experience. You know, someone going skydiving, even, like, you could be nervous and then you could love it, or you could be nervous and then you could do it and you're like, I hated that. Like, I never want to do that again. I'm still so
It's like a new
excited.
flavor of chicken wings.
No, it's not like a new flavor of chicken wings.
You know when it's like it looks good and you're like, this is going to be good. And,
You eat anything.
But then you go back and you're like, I should have just got the hot sauce.
So wait a minute. Don't let him derail this conversation.
No, so for me, I'm still the last podcast. Get out of here. The last podcast, I explained why I was bow hunting, and we still had, I guess it was 2.5 weeks left of our season, 3 weeks left of our season for whitetail, which I could have rifle hunted. But the reason why I was bow hunting, and the reason why I will continue to bow hunt until I harvest my first big game animal, is that I am confident that that interaction and that experience with my bow and being that close, and that feeling of earning it, not that you don't earn it with a rifle, but like that's what I want, and I want to just be confident that the experience will be a positive one for me, and I now know from our season that that's with a bow. And that could change, and it could change per animal. You know, sheep hunting's super, super hard.
Yeah.
So, you know, sheep hunting with a rifle, you're earning it. I don't know. It's just, it's all personal. It's all hard. And
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can make it happen next fall. Y'all gonna hear about it if it does. But
Of course.
yeah, it's.
Well, we got to have you back on the podcast if that happens.
Oh goodness.
So
You'll be able to hear from.
I hope
All the way
to
from
see some
Canada.
film, of this experience.
At this point, I think I'll probably try my best to document it. But that's one thing that I've really learned as well, is it's hard to engage the creative brain and also the orchestrate a hunt.
Yeah.
At the same time.
I liked that we didn't really film this fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't film much, and I enjoyed that.
I think that's important, actually.
It
for
separated
someone-
play and work,
Yeah.
and for someone who really has a hard time disconnecting from work, he always is working. That was nice, because I felt like my hunting experience was very individualistic, and I wasn't doing it for
any of the wrong
someone.
reasons,
I wasn't
or-
doing it for someone or a brand or this. Like, I was doing it for me, and we were doing it together. And that was really nice. It's not like, okay, like,
Yep.
here we go. And I didn't have to be on, like, I'm just me and raw. And not that I wouldn't be with a camera. It's just, it's harder,
Yeah.
I'm emotional. So having a camera around would be interesting for sure.
Well, and especially when it's that first year, I think that it's nice. I hunted for years without a camera on me, right? And then later, when we did run cameras for like another 10 years, it was we were at a different stage in our hunting life, right? And it was time we wanted to share that with other people. But in the beginning, the camera would have, I think, maybe altered my perception or my idea of what the experience was in a way I'm not sure it would have been as happy. I don't know, but I don't want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is when was do you remember, Aaron, the first animal you killed?
Oh yeah. Charlie the chipmunk rolling around in the pastures behind my house. Had a crossman air gun.
Charlie the chipmunk. Now, was he named?
No, he was
before?
not named
Okay.
before. So, when you're a kid, and I would argue that
So
this
you weren't
happened-
like a sadistic kid who had
No.
targeted
So this is
a
what
specific
chipmunk.
chipmunk.
No, so I wasn't even targeting anything. I was just a proficient shot, and I think eventually this moment comes in a young man's life when they're like, I think bet you can't hit that kind of thing. But then it turns out that you shoot pop cans like 8 hours a day, so you probably can hit it. And then there's a chipmunk running on a fence post, and you're like, oh, and you shoot, and then you're like, oh man, I actually hit it. And then you have a dead chipmunk, and then you're like, what do I do? But you're like 6 or 7, so you dig a hole and bury it, and write Charlie the Chipmunk on a cross and put it in your lawn. That's the first thing.
That's about how it went down.
It ate him alive.
So, how'd you feel about that?
A lot. Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I was pretty sad. I was like truly truly sad. Yeah, there was not really an intent to kill, and I killed, and so it was very different.
Dustin?
I don't remember exactly what it was. I grew up watching hunting, going with my dad all the time. My dad's a taxidermist. I was around dead animals. I mean, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. I don't remember being emotionally affected as far as it was probably a sparrow. I know I shot some possums and rabbits with my bow when I was little. Before. But the first thing that actually probably touched me was when I shot a deer. When I was 12, I shot my first.
I was
deer.
going to ask that. Like, was there any time where you shot something? Early on, where all of a sudden you felt the weight of it. Yeah,
and it was that very first. It was a button buck. Yeah. Spine shot him, and I had to get out of the stand and shoot him 2 more times and watch him die right in front of me at 2 feet. Take his last breath, and that's where it hit me. Like, okay, this is something.
It's not a game.
Serious. It's not a game. And then shooting stuff with my BB gun all the time, stacking up sparrows or pigeons, whatever, and that was a game. That was shooting.
Yeah.
But when it came to hunting and actually shooting a deer or something like that, that was something different.
I went on hunts with my uncles, and I went on a few hunts with my dad, and I saw animals like, as a younger man, and 8 to 10 years old, 12 years old, and I didn't get out a ton, but we went out every season for a few days, and every year my dad would go out a lot. I had school and stuff like that, but I remember I didn't really kill an animal. And then by the time I was 16, 17, 18, I was into girls and basketball at high school, and I didn't get out as much.
Could you dunk?
Oh yeah, I mean 5'10". You should have seen me. But fast forward, I went, college and some years, and then I got back into. I was like, I want to go hunting again. I really.
What was the thing that made that happen?
So my cousin Ben and my uncle had been. They never stopped, right? And so I went with them a bunch of times, a few years before I went off to college after I got out of high school. And they're like, you got to come. I don't know. I just wanted to do it. I'd been fishing a ton, and catching fish and eating fish. And I was like, I just want to do more. I want to go big game, And I'd elk hunted a few times and deer hunted and didn't kill anything. We would go into these units where it was, 0 guaranteed draw kind of units, and there would be 2,000 tags issued for this little patch of land, and everybody would be dressed in orange, and then it would be like, okay, today's opening day, and then it was just like a gong show, and then people would shoot all these like young bucks mostly, and then they'd go home, and it's kind of how it was. So that's kind of how we hunted. So I didn't know any other kind of hunting. That's just how we did it. Kind of like how I hear your childhood was kind of like that when you went hunting. So when I was older and I went for the first time with a rifle with a different attitude, I'm 22, I think, 22, 23 years old. So I go out and on an elk hunt rifle, and I really have never shot any big game animal before. I've seen them. I've seen other people shoot them. And I thought, no big deal. But I remember shooting this bull elk, and it went down pretty quick. It was a good shot, and I ran over to it. It's like 50 yards away, and so I'm real close when it happens, and it goes to the ground. I run over there, and I look at it, and it takes a while to expire. And I had to decide whether I was going to shoot it again or not shoot it again. And I stood there in indecision for I don't know how long, and I'm watching it, and it's dying, but it's not dying fast, but I don't want to shoot it again, and so I remember feeling very emotional about the whole thing, which surprised me because I just didn't think it was like that.
Especially having been around it. I mean,
just thought no big deal. But here it is, and it's looking right at me. It knows that the jig is up, and I'm just kind of standing there, and I have to reload, and I do shoot it again, and the devastation from it and everything. There's snow on the ground. There's just blood everywhere now, and it's like it's a graphic scene, you know, and it was a heavy moment. But then, you know, I called my cousin after I sat there for a while, just taking it all in, you know, and I touched it, and you know, it was like it's just that close to an animal that was just there a moment ago, and now it's not. And I remember calling my cousin and telling him, and I was pretty far away, and he's like, "Okay, start, you know, skinning him and all that." And it'd been a long time since I'd been involved in that, so I did that all by myself, and it took me most of the day. And as I broke down the animal, and I kind of changed it from this animal to meat, everything started to change. And I started to process what had happened, but also realized that, you know, it was this pivotal moment for me to go, okay, yeah, I killed an animal, but now there's all this meat I'm gathering and stacking in the snow and hanging from trees, and it helped me understand what, you know, helped me complete that circle, or it helped with that, I guess, not guilt, but deal with the weight of the matter.
Felt like you had reason.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
That's a good way to put it. So, so Logan, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And it's weird because, like, this season, we hunted a bunch. Aaron ended up killing 4 animals. I was on a hunt with my friend who killed a mule deer. But I actually never saw anything die, which was weird. Yeah. So I was on a girls' trip, which I regret, when Aaron shot his elk.
Hey, honey, it's peak rut. I'm going to go to New York City.
For 3 days, and that's when it happened. In my mind, I'm like, oh, we'll be hunting for 2 weeks. I'll need a break. My girlfriend's coming from Germany. I want to see her. Dumb. But I do love seeing my girlfriends. So I didn't get to be a part of that one, which was hard, but still. Yeah. And then Aaron went to Alaska for his blacktail, so I wasn't on that hunt. And then we were mule deer hunting with our friend, and we kind of like went to different coulees so that we weren't, you know, in the same area. And then
so you didn't see anything.
So I didn't see him shoot that, but I got to learn to quarter. We were way far back, so we quartered that one. So I got to be part of that process, and I thought that was super fascinating. I have a science degree, so that was like, ooh, dissections, great. Right. And then we were actually filming for one, and our friend's son shot a whitetail, and I was in a different area for that, so I didn't see that. And then Aaron's buck in Kansas, we were in 2 different tree stands, probably like 2 kilometers apart? Not even?
Like 200 yards.
Was that close?
Yep.
And
you were very close.
I didn't realize it was that close.
You didn't see that either.
Didn't see that. And then in Alberta, he got a whitetail as well. And I was sitting in my tree stand, and he went to explore another area near where we live, and he got to shoot it from the ground, which is super awesome. But again, wasn't there for that one. So I got to quarter the muley with our friend Zach, and Aaron's buck in Kansas, I got to learn to gut, but I actually wasn't there to see the shot.
Ultra bonus of if you can successfully convince your significant other to enjoy hunting is the part where it's like, well, honey, you're going to have to learn how to do this at some point. So I just shot this deer, and I was wondering, I think this is a great time for you to learn to gut it. So you sit back and flip open the pocket knife and say some generic things. Yeah, oversee. Okay, yep, cut there. Yep, the whole way up. Pull it all out. All right. Drag it, you know.
And that didn't bother you.
No, not at all.
And that's what's interesting, you know, to this point, is that Logan has been involved from, you know, it's now been a full season of preparation and planning and hunting, and then quartering and gutting, and then through butchering, and we've processed the meat very extensively, you know.
We made sausage.
The only thing that hasn't happened is you haven't seen an animal die.
No, I haven't seen a big game animal die, so I haven't been there for that moment, or to experience the high of the person who did it, like that elation in that moment. So I haven't had the emotional part from the animal or the emotional part from the human side. Like, I've seen people, you know, beyond the roar, you see Will's leg and it's like shaking, and like I can see that. in film, but I think in real life, in person, that would be different. And I'm excited to personally experience that, but also experience that with other people. Like sharing those moments is so awesome, and that's what I'm looking for.
That's one of the things that's really interesting too. That where I'm fortunate to have been able to introduce Logan to a sort of a Western big game hunting arena, because that's something that Dusty touched on, but it's really hard for him to actually go hunting with Lexington. Either he goes hunting or she goes hunting, because they have kids and they're pretty established as adults. Whereas Logan and I would just disappear.
A little more footloose.
Yeah. A little bit more.
Yeah, so we got to sort of share that. So that speaks even more to Dusty's success in sort of converting Lexington, in that she was able to go on her own and enjoy it, and there wasn't that sort of dialogue and that like shared adventure that I think was very attractive to Logan at the beginning, was just the fact that like maybe it was just we were going to do something together.
Yeah.
And then we converted that, over the course of the season into an interest purely in hunting. But that's one of the advantages of the West, is that we could go with our friends or go just with us. But if there's this sort of like shared adventure.
It definitely was an adventure for sure, and that we got to see so much, because we weren't just like hunting the same area. We were hiking a ton, and we were like we glassed sheep one day, and that was super cool.
What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that new couples make when they're hunting together?
100%. I think that people, like, you have to truly be at peace with not killing anything and not having any sort of success that you would normally define as success.
It's kind of like hunting with kids.
Yes.
Logan does not like it when I make that comparison, but I think it's like you have to, as soon as you wave that, like you have to be really just 100% ready to just walk away from your tags and your opportunity, first of all. And then second of all, you have to understand that, like, if there's a coyote running across a field and I want to keep walking and Logan wants to sit there and watch that we're just going to sit there and watch that. And that, there's this pace, there's like this responsibility and this pace that you feel when you're in the backcountry, where it's like, keep going, especially again out west, where, what's over the next hill, what's in the next valley, and there's this, hike, go, check this area, move, go to another area, and you're just really trying to be mobile. And for me, I'm working to solve the puzzle. But for Logan, she's just like, we're just running around like crazy people. Let's have a nap. And and it's like, don't be afraid to slow down, because what I learned this year is a lot of the time I would want to keep moving and Logan would want to eat or sleep. And, if you get to a beautiful, great spot that you expect to see an elk and there aren't any elk there, your instinct is to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But in reality, if you go and lay down and fall asleep, and you wake up, we had several times where we would like have a nap or cook something up. And then as we pause there in that like high likelihood area that normally you'd leave,
something happened.
Something happened. So it's like, understand that they absolutely have to set the pace, that you completely waive your likelihood of success and be okay with that. And then take the time to understand and actually appreciate what they want to get from it. And, I think that's why an important part of why we didn't film this year is that there wasn't, we hadn't made any promises to anybody. Nobody was expecting anything. And, it was just an adventure.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that really helps actually, as well, that I had the luxury of, but Dustin wouldn't have in Kansas, is that even though, I've been hunting basically my entire life, I was discovering this on my own for the first time. So we were hunting areas for the first time and species for the first time. And, I would try and involve her in some of the decisions we'd make and be like, do we go here or here? And I think that as much as I generally had a pretty strong opinion, I think that doing something that's fresh, where it feels like it's a shared thing, as opposed to like hurry up and sit here and shoot straight kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like that's a totally different thing to manage when Dusty's got whitetail hunting completely science, and he has to find a way to fit Lexington within that world and within areas that he already hunts, and make it feel like it's a journey for her. Whereas for us, it was truly a new journey, even for me, that we were embarking on as a team. And even though I had more experience, Logan could really help with that.
I think for the person who hasn't hunted before, the first thing that I tried to go into the season with an open mind. Like I wanted to like it's a huge part of Aaron's life, and I was going to be okay with not enjoying it, but I wanted to give it a chance, and I wanted to like it. I didn't think I'd fall in love with it like I have, which that's the part that boggles my mind. But so to come in with an open mind and an attitude to succeed in enjoying the process, but to enjoy something, you have to be very honest with yourself. So I didn't just, like push on when I was hungry. When I was hungry, I wanted to stop and I wanted to eat because I wanted to keep enjoying those moments. And I, again, like stopping and watching a coyote. Like if I'm having a good moment in that,
it's
that
so
time
fluffy.
frame, yeah. And it was like somewhere so red and like that. It was interesting to me, and I liked it. And so I think being honest with yourself and pushing yourself past your own perceived limitations, but then also being okay with not enjoying everything. Like, so there was one morning where I didn't want to go hunting. Like, I just really did not want to go. I woke up and I was just not feeling it. It was when you were gone. It was when I was whitetail hunting. Yeah. And so Aaron was on the road, and I had like planned to hunt 3 days in a row, and I had hunted one day, and I planned to go to my stand in the morning, and I woke up and I just I didn't want to. Yeah. And part of me was like, oh, like push on and go. And then the other part of me is like, well, you've been enjoying this and you're liking this. So why, like, if you're like, I don't know what it was, but I just was not feeling it that day. So I didn't go. And the next day I sat the entire day and I saw tons and I had a great time and an awesome experience. But I think that the reason that I could have that amazing day is because I gave myself that permission to not just like oh, I'm forced to go, or like, not.
Sometimes we're so focused on this goal that we forget that there's a process.
Exactly.
Like to enjoy the moment rather than, and I struggle with that because I do want the end goal. I want the dead elk. Mm-hmm. I want the meat in the freezer. And so there are days where I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like doing this, but I'm going to push through for this goal. And sometimes I do it, and I'm so glad I did.
It depends on the degree of not wanting to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then there are times where I'm like, guys are like, we're getting up at 4 a.m. and we're going to go to this mountaintop. And I'm like, I'm tired. And I'm like, you guys go. I'm not going. Mm-hmm. And believe me, in my hunting buddies, it's like sacrilegious. Like, what do you mean you're not going? And I'm like the one guy in the group that's like, I ain't going. I don't want to go. I'm going to take the day off. And I'm going to be okay with that. And they're like, you can't do that. All that is is dependent on you going right now. And so I struggle because I do like to push through and I do like the challenge. And I do want to, there are times where I'm like, you can never quit. But there are also times where I feel like that robbed me of some experiences that I could have had that were deep and meaningful because I'm so focused on the end goal and not the process.
And I think that whenever you're like, when you're forcing yourself to do it, you're not as sharp and as effective as you would be otherwise.
True. But if you're not there at all, you can't kill anything.
Yeah.
And certainly there are times where I've been out there like that and harvested something that is just, I tell me I'm so glad I went because I almost didn't do it. Mm-hmm. I almost didn't climb that mountain, but I did, and thank goodness. But then there are times where, you don't know what you missed out on. But I'm glad. There are so many times I'm glad I didn't do something too.
I really don't do well whenever I don't know what I missed out on.
The same way.
Yeah.
I never regret going. Well, I take that back. Sometimes you regret going, but I have less.
I think as you get older and more into hunting, that's less and less. It's like I feel like I've been hunting so long that now I'm used to the displeasure, the discomfort,
through,
and I actually enjoy the experience so much, even if I'm getting dumped on in the pouring rain and it's cold all day long. It's like I'm okay with that now. But if I tried to make my daughter do that right now,
exactly,
she would hate it. And there were times in my hunting life where I was like, where I wasn't where I am today.
And the thing that I think is important too is, as you know, as those years go by, like coming into this year, Logan doesn't know what it is that, like, she doesn't know that it's just going to become an object of her obsession. But like, if you think about right now, you know, during this conversation, I've thought about elk like 40 times. And like, if you think about that every day, all year round, and you have, you know, realistically, what do we have, you know, 10 days or whatever, and you're going to, like, you wake up and you don't feel like it, and so you're going to give away 10% of your opportunity that you've obsessed with all year.
Right.
And so that obsession that exists all throughout the year is something that we understand, but when you're beginning, you don't understand, and you have to remember that beginners don't understand that.
I agree.
And I think a big part of it from our end was fishing first and then hunting, so that you can take all those little steps that you learn about understanding nature and those like little successes and catching a fish, and then catching a fish on a dry fly, and then catching a big fish, and like all those feelings. And that escalates because, you know, the tough thing with hunting, as we learned this year, is, you know, you put all this work in, you make a mistake, and it's like, okay, cool, we'll see you in another, you know, see you in 360 days. Like, you can try again. Whereas with fishing, you can kind of eliminate those
hiccups.
Yeah, more quickly, and it sort of makes you more aware heading into hunting.
What were you going to say, Dustin, when I interrupted you?
I was just going to say, what was I going to say, actually?
About, you were kind of saying what we said about, you know.
Oh, I regret not going way more than I do, you know, if I.
You're like plagued by what if.
Yeah. But like Aaron said, if it's someone fresh, you can't force that on them. That comes with time.
You didn't force Lexington. Like she went out the day she wanted to.
It's just like a kid. You can't, I mean, they have to want to go. Yeah. And they have to make the mistakes and learn by themselves. You can't force it, you know.
And the other thing is, there's so much stuff that you take for granted that, you know, even if you've never big game hunted, or like but just for hunting, like, we know as hunters, there's a turkey coming in, you know how you move, or and like, you just pick all these things up instinctively. And there are so many things you take for granted, like, hey, when you hear footsteps, like, draw your bow, you know. That's a completely obvious thing. That's not, you know, understandably it's not that obvious. Or, you know, just these little things that you're like, why did I not tell her that? Because you'd never think to tell her. But like, honestly, if you can spend some time and think of every single possible potential thing that could happen and lay it all out, like, you know, draw now, shoot here, this could happen, that could happen, because, man, you just never, like. And
even that just can't be replaced by experience.
Right.
You can talk about every situation, and this is what you do, and this is what you do, but it's almost like it's more of a feel in the moment that you get from experiencing failure and success.
Yeah.
And then you feel, you know, when that timing was. But I think, you know, when it comes down to suffering in the outdoors, in the cold, hunting when you don't feel like hunting. I
got a pee. Speaking of suffering, can I call a timeout?
Yeah. Do it. You're like Aaron Snyder. Weak.
We can continue without him.
Just crop dusted you. Between that and his feet, man. Jeez.
Oh, his feet reek.
I guess he's comfortable with it.
Well, my wife, I'd say that one of the best things that happened this year, we were able to hunt a couple times during the rut. And it's like our third time out this year. We're sitting together in a buck I chased all last year. He's about a 175-inch 10-point. Big mature deer. He's a 6-year-old deer. Comes in 5 yards, goes out to 20 yards, and feeds facing straight away. She draws. I'm like, oh God, you know, I'm going crazy because I was hunting that deer all last year, and she on the third sit sees it. It feeds and then goes out to 30 yards and turns, and I set her up with one pin, 20 yards. And I said, as soon as I grunt, and that deer's broadside shoot, and I grunted, she shot under his brisket that far. I mean, just barely missed it. And having her miss, like, I think if she would have hit that deer, that's awesome. But I think she needed that. I mean, I think she needed to miss and to know. And we talked about that, you know, what was all wrong. She drew right away. The deer came in. She was at full draw for like 5 minutes. I mean, I was filming the thing. She was at full draw forever, and definitely didn't need to do that. And the judging the distance and all that. She learned a lot right there, and the fact that, well, to make it worse, 2 days later, that deer ended up going over to the neighbors and rubbing a tree next to a hot wire fence and getting his rack tangled in the wire and, like, literally rolled up like a half-mile of wire and killed himself.
Wow.
So he was done, but
That's a tough.
But for her, to have that miss, and she's like, oh, I'm like, well, you get another chance, but at the same time, it's real life, it's done.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen again.
I was going to say earlier that when you have children, I've taken my daughter out, and I can't expect my wife or my daughter, who hasn't spent as much time in the woods as I have, to enjoy freezing to death in order to glimpse the buck that you obsess about, like you were saying, 365 days of the year, because she doesn't have that appreciation yet. And so for me, it's like, I always, with my daughters, I'm like, okay, I want them to be warm and cozy, and I want it to be more of a sunny day than a rainy day, and I want it to be an enjoyable experience while she's taking it all in. I want these to be pretty easy and fun experiences.
Butter it up, yeah.
Because right now, she doesn't have that same appreciation that I do for those amazing outdoor experiences. So later, like for me, the suffering, I don't notice it, because I know from experience that I'm out there because there's something amazing could happen at any moment. And so I'm willing to go through the misery because of the goal, because of what there is at the end of the tunnel. I think that takes years of drive and effort and stuff to get to that point. And you can't just expect someone to see it the way you do, to be as excited about it as you are, because they haven't developed the same appreciation for it.
But at the same time, I would say that, like, the fire is lit. We're a year in, and, like,
Yeah.
It's there now, for sure.
But, Donnie, I was interviewing Donnie Vincent, and he was talking about how there are people who go out and they hunt. To your credit, you never took the camera out. But there are people who hunt because, not because they're hunters, really, but because they're seeking some kind of attention, and hunting is a medium for getting it, which is different than someone who's hunting because they want to experience hunting. And so I think some people go out there without that same motive, and so the drive isn't there like it is with Logan.
I was really self-conscious of that this season, because just by nature of my awesome hunting partner and Rockhouse, they have connections at companies, brands that have awesome gear and great setups. And so I was super fortunate to be hunting in what is the best clothing out there. I was hunting the new women's Sitka line. There are so many other, like, way more legit people. And mine was just by circumstance, because of these guys and photos and whatnot, that I was really fortunate to have the opportunity. But I was super self-conscious of that, because it's like, I haven't earned it. And so that for me was something that I struggled with, was this, like, kind of back and forth of not, I guess, like, earning my spot, as you say, like, with people attention. So that was actually hard for me. Mine was like almost the
Well, yeah, it was something we talked about quite a bit, and the thing that I sort of tell Logan is, it's like, look, you care about this to the same way that they do. You just haven't had the time and the opportunity, and to the credit, having finished up ATA, and Logan having met a lot of other women, from everything that I saw, people were very gracious about it. Now, whether that will remain the case, but I think that is an intimidating thing, and that's an interesting spot where we find ourselves, because when we go out and we take cameras and tell stories like we did in Game of Inches, Beyond the Roar, and just even smaller stuff, people seem to enjoy it. But then there's also this sort of sense of, this attempt of self-aggrandizement when you go and you film yourself. But it's like, what's the answer? Because we're not, if you sit down and you ask me to tell you a hunting story, the way that I was brought up and the people I was brought up with, I can tell you I can tell you about my story of killing an elk this fall, and I can sit down and I will tell that story in an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And even if it's a deer, because the guys that I grew up hunting with, it's like, so the sun was coming up and I'd hung my tree. And I'd hung my stand in the tree so that when the sun came up, it would shine on my face because I liked that in the morning. They're starting this story like 4 months ago.
It's like, yeah.
But so that's the thing is that became like my, and sort of has led us
that's
to where
how
we
Canadians are.
That's okay.
They're just
What else
really
we gonna
chill, and it's like, and it's just it takes you guys a while to get things done.
but I just love telling those stories, and so then my way of telling those stories most efficiently and is through film, and that's. But to Donnie's point,
yeah,
I guess it puts us in a weird spot because, should we film? Like, when Logan and I hunt next year, should we film it? If I'm hunting, should I film it? If Dusty has a great opportunity to deer, should he film it? And I think that
how do you reconcile that?
I think that the thing is like, what do I want to do? And the answer is that like when I can sit down and relive an experience through the imagery and the footage and challenge myself to succinctly summarize that experience and present it to other people, I get to live that over. And, with Beyond the Roar and that hunt, I sort of was able to dive into what the essence of that experience was in a way that I wouldn't have if I wasn't putting the onus on myself to make a film. And I think that, and I've done some soul searching about this, but there's this sort of sense, especially for people that are traditionally, behind the camera a lot of the time, that like there's a sense that drawing attention to yourself is negative. But truly what makes, it makes me happy to make hunting films, and it makes me happy to film hunts. It makes me happy to tell stories and to showcase the highs and the lows and to celebrate the, what it is we do. And I think that the reasons that I want to do that are internal, and the reasons that I don't want to do it or I feel self-conscious about it are external. And I think that's basically how I reconcile it, is that I need to listen to myself, not my perception of what,
right,
other people would think of us.
When I get twisted up like that, and I'm like Logan, feeling, did I have
Nobody feels like Logan.
True, Logan's feelings are complex.
Logan's Feelings on Instagram. Check him out.
At Logan's Feelings. So when you're dealing with...
Logan feels excited for the new followers she's going to get. Thanks, Gritty Nation.
I'm so
That is
lucky.
one of my favorite Instagram feeds to follow, by the way, is Logan's Feelings. Gives me a good chuckle, and I'm certain they're accurate. So here's the deal. You're lucky to have Aaron. So here's the thing. When I feel that way, often what I talk, one of the things I ask myself is what are my motives? And because a lot of people say authenticity matters. Well, you can be authentically shallow. I mean, that's authentic. Mm-hmm. You're who you are. But really, when you ask yourself what are your motives, to me, that's where I can determine, what is it that I'm trying to do. And motives are different for everyone, but I think motives matter. If I do it for more altruistic reasons, if I'm sharing stories about my hunts, not for self-aggrandizement or for the praise of other people, but rather to make a difference, to promote conservation, to get people that would otherwise be against hunting into hunting, to educate, to make it a positive difference, then I try not to worry about what other people might think. At the end of the day, my motives are this, and I'm going to trust my motives. I'm going to execute on my motives. And now, does that mean my motives are always like that? No. Sometimes the ego creeps up, and the pride and different things come about that creep in there. It's like every day to me, your ego is a roll call. Like, who am I going to be today? Am I going to be Mr. A-hole Brian Call, or more, hey, this guy who wants to make a difference and do things outside of himself, Brian Call? And it's a tricky game, and I think it changes day to day, and it's something you got to beat back all the time.
Well, and the thing that's tricky about it too is you throw in the business factor, where it's not like there's two binary Brian calls. It's like there's one that wants it for this reason, and one that wants it for this reason, and one that understands that self-promotion is inherently in your best interest professionally, and it all gets pretty tangled up. But I mean, when you wake up in the morning and you're loading your pack, you throw a camera in, you did it for a reason. It's because that's what you love to do. And I mean, that's what we love to do. And so if it makes your hunting experience more rich, both while you're there, it'll make it quite a bit heavier while you're there.
Yeah.
But if it makes it more rich while you're there, and especially afterwards in the retrospect that comes through the editing and writing process, and then viewing that film for years to come, it's pretty spectacular.
I think it's irreplaceable. When you think about Logan, you're talking about being, whether you've earned it or not. We all, I think, have feelings like that at times. You don't want to be a poser or pretend like you're something that you're not.
Yeah, that's what I tried super hard to be me, and that's something that, like, outside of hunting, like, it's just I am who I am.
Yep.
Hence Logan's feelings. I like that's
Styrofoam is bad.
It's me. Yeah.
Don't use styrofoam.
Save the planet.
Yes.
But the thing that was cool for me, and a really neat moment was, so I started sharing my hunting on Instagram and on Facebook, because that was like what I've been doing. So a lot of my friends don't hunt, and they were kind of following
the
along.
Majority. Vast
yeah,
majority.
actually, yes. I pre-Aaron, I was like,
don't hunt.
Yeah, no one hunted. Aaron was my hunting friend before we started dating. Then we started dating, and then so that was it. But it was really neat for me that I didn't realize that people like started following along with my journey and my struggles and my emotions. But we were out at a bar one night, and an old friend of mine that I hadn't seen in years, but still connected on social media, we run into each other. She's like, "Did you get your deer?" Like, wow. No, I didn't. But like that to me was super cool, because like she doesn't hunt. Yeah. But she was invested in your life, and and now her outlook might change. Yeah, and my girl, I know Logan, and she hunts, and she's not an animal. Yeah, she's not a cruel human being.
Yeah, no, but that honestly, that's been a crazy thing to witness from my end, is that in her own way, like, acts like an accidental influencer, where there's this like subset of people in our community and Logan's peers and friends and family and whatever else, and watching their viewpoint change through Logan's extremely candid
feelings.
Feelings and recount of the experience.
I remember when I started doing the podcast, not for very long, and Corey Jacobson came to me and he's like, "Brian, I really enjoy the Gritty Bowmen. I love what you and your buddies have come up with, and your film that's in this full draw film tour of this elk hunt that you went on with Anthony's dad, my friend's dad." And he said, "I'd like you to be part of Elk 101. Okay. He's like, "I would like you to be on the Elk 101 pro staff, and between all these guys that have been on there, there's like a combined 300 years of experience hunting elk or something, a lot of years of experience, right?" And I'm like, I don't really belong in that group. I'm looking at the list of names and stuff. I'm like, dude, no, this guy's killed like 50 elk, right? I think I've killed like 5, man. There's a big difference here. And we start talking about it, and it was really helpful for me to talk to Corey about it at that time, because I didn't feel like you said, Logan, I don't want to be a poser, pretend like I'm something that I'm not. And he was saying, look, everybody, you're not coming to the table empty. Everybody comes to the table with something, right? This isn't like, so yes, there's some things that I lack in the area of experience hunting elk. There's a lot that I do know about hunting elk, but I bring something else to the table too. And that was, my personality, my ability to talk to people and to interview people that are very much into hunting, that know a lot more than me, and then promote their ideas on a platform. He's like, look, there's way more to it than just how many elk you have killed. And so when I think of, Logan, you and your you're out there hunting and you're like, I haven't earned this, but you have earned it to me because you're bringing to the table all these things that are Logan, right? And those things are highly valuable that you have developed throughout your whole life. It's not like you have to kill an animal to all of a sudden have earned it. We all have earned it, you know? So I think it's cool. You just got to get out there and you just got to do it.
Well, based on the way that Logan's been talking about next fall, hopefully we'll be doing quite a bit of that.
Oh, goodness.
Have you considered,
So good.
I think you need to come back, whether you kill something or not, and talk some more about your season. And I think you should film it. You guys have a very entertaining, relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it is, right? Like, you guys get each other in a weird way. You're a little odd, you know?
Just the right amount of crazy, right?
That's
The
right.
right amount of crazy.
It's the right amount of crazy.
That's a great compliment. Thank you. Yeah, that's us. I mean, it's like, you know, it gets out of control a lot.
Yeah.
You know, like if you were to walk into our living room of our house right now, you'd be like, these two people don't have it together. You know, these two people don't understand each other. They're savages. You know, but you know, I think that what the beautiful thing about it has been this like shared prioritization of like what is it that matters. And it's like sometimes the dishes don't matter. Sometimes there's a green drake hatch, and sometimes our friends want to, you know, go find a
Great pal line.
a great pal line, or sometimes our friends want a pal line. Pal line is scheme. Just for the clarification, our friends want to find a great pal line. It's like, oh god, Canadians. Yeah, we'll cut that for sure.
So, Dustin, I'm just going to cut him off.
Yeah.
What is hunting, you know, together with your wife? How's that change your relationship?
I think she actually understands partially why I obsess about it and think about it nonstop, like every day.
And
and she thought it was cute for a while.
Yeah.
You know, and then it just annoyed the hell out of her. And now she's getting into it, and you know, I think it helps her understand that a little bit. And it's brought us definitely closer. And I like having those experiences with her, and you know, being able to share that with anyone. You know, my wife, and I'm super excited for, you know, my kids growing up to have that experience. And yeah, I wouldn't change it for anything. I'm glad she's into it.
I think it's cool. I think it's neat to see you guys hear about your wife, and I'm going hunting with my wife too. She's getting into it. She got herself a bow, and it's something that we got to prioritize. Take my daughters out too, and but I'm excited to hunt with her. It's going to be rough. I can tell you that right now. Right meow. Yeah, we're gonna have a little trouble, my wife and I, but it's gonna be good too.
Yeah,
I think anytime you can go do something, like I'm so passionate about it and so driven and, you know, excited about it, that it's just natural for me to want to share it. And she's always been awesome about that. Just, oh yeah, really? That's awesome. You know, I'm part of it, and super excited to get a bow and shoot archery, but getting her to that next level, where we're so lopsided in our interest in it. It'll be a little bit of a challenge, and she may never be in it. She may not get that same excitement that I do. But I just hanging out together though, in those places, I know she's gonna appreciate it.
Yep, and to understand it that much more, you know, that means a lot.
Even if she doesn't want to do it all the time, I can.
Right.
I'm still doing it. We're still going out.
Because logically, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. It's like, what do? I walk around in the forest for like 43 days, and you know,
I might see something.
Yeah, we might like see some stuff that you can see in the national park that we live next to, and then, you know, at the end of it, you can get some meat, and it's cool.
Yeah,
you know, which is great, and not to downplay that, but the logic of it all is,
especially if you're not obsessing about it like we are.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for us, there's no logic. We don't apply logic to it. Right. But if you think about it, like, you know, news, like a picture of a news headline: man walks in forest for 54 days, shoots small deer. You know, it's like, why?
Right, right. Well, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. any closing thoughts before we go? And it can be from marriage advice to dating advice to hunting advice, and how often you should call or not call.
Call every time you want to call. Because calling is fun. And, man, you guys setting me up.
Go for it, Dusty. Do you have any last thoughts?
I think if you call too much, you'll never have a chance at like a Mallard pintail cross.
Oh, the hybrid. He brought up the hybrid. Story for another podcast. I guess I'm just very lucky. I'm very thankful that I have somebody that has sort of the intrinsic motivation to succeed. And I think that I'm also lucky that, Logan has aligned hunting success with just her general life success. But I think that the number one most important thing is to understand, truly understand your partner before you try and get them out there. Logan's competitive and she's stubborn, and you can use that against her. There's a lot of stuff that we might
learn how to manipulate her.
We might see 4 different deer, but I'll say it's all the same deer that's evading us, and then she'll be like, "Oh, that guy, he's been giving us the slip," and then, but it's truly though, it's what are those factors of the personality that will create
drive?
That'll create drive. That sounds super manipulative, and it is, and
it
works.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Logan?
Always try to have fun. Because even you said earlier, being out and it's miserable, it's we had days that were miserable, but miserable is memorable.
Oh, come on.
Daddy.
Genius.
No, that's not.
Miserable is memorable.
No, that's a Michael Simpson quote. You can't just steal quotes that are already in movies that we've made.
Stealing it.
And then just
happened.
You're using it, not stealing it.
Uh-huh.
People
say carpe diem all the time.
It's a tribute.
Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah, so that's
it
the
hit
thing.
home for me.
Try to find the fun in every situation, and that's applicable to all of life, and for this segment, hunting.
Yes, Dustin,
be patient,
That's
especially
great.
with these two cats. You gotta be patient.
You can't let them push them buttons.
Yeah,
just gotta let it roll off the back.
Yeah, roll at your own pace. Be patient and let everyone else choose their own pace too. So,
well, my advice is to stay gritty. Be gritty, like grit. Have grit.
Eat grits.
And go follow Logan's feelings.
Oh my gosh.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
In 1907, only 41,000 elk remained in North America. And in 1950, only 12,000 pronghorn remained. Today, there are more than 1 million elk and 1.1 million pronghorn. Why? Because hunting is conservation. In 1937, hunters actually requested an 11% tax on guns, ammo, bows, and arrows to help fund conservation. That tax so far raised more than $8 billion for wildlife conservation. Altogether, hunters pay more than $1.6 billion a year for conservation programs. No one gives more. It's obvious that hunters care about animals, and yet we actively hunt and kill them. Many people cannot understand this dichotomy. How can we both care about animals and also kill them? It's a question that I challenge all of you to consider. Here is an excerpt from the Gritty Bowmen film, Alberta, with a quote from Fred Bear that describes my feelings on this subject. The first shot on this buck was fatal, and it cleanly pierced his vitals, but he didn't go down. I hate to see animals suffer, and when possible, I will always shoot them again if I have the opportunity. I have tremendous respect for this buck and his will to survive. He didn't go down easy, and I have mixed emotions about that. At times like this, I am reminded of a quote by Fred Bear, which somewhat describes my thoughts on this matter. Quote, I have always tempered my killing with respect for the game pursued. I see the animal not only as a target, but as a living creature with more freedom than I will ever have. I take that life if I can, with regret as well as joy, and with the sure knowledge that nature's way of fang and claw and starvation are a far crueler fate than I bestow. I do not hunt for the joy of killing, but for the joy of living, and the inexpressible pleasure of mingling my life, however briefly, with that of a wild creature that I respect, admire, and value. We can argue as much as we like, but the fact is, hunting is man's oldest and most successful try at life. Every human being is alive today because our ancestors hunted. So it's a relatively new phenomenon for people to regard hunting as a cruel and frivolous activity that has no worth outside of personal gratification for the hunter. The funny thing is, hunting has increased my appreciation for wild animals and wild places, not decreased it. And as I watch society lose its ties to wildlife and conservation, I feel my bond with nature grow ever stronger in direct correlation to my time spent hunting. I understand now more than ever that hunting is the greatest hope for creating the next generation of true conservationists. Never stop sharing your passion for hunting in the outdoors. Our wild animals and wild places depend on it. We thank Kifaru, Mountain Ops, Hoyt, Vortex, Phelps Game Calls, Black Eagle Arrows, and Crispy Boots for supporting the Gritty Bowmen. We love these companies and the people behind them. They truly make fantastic products. Please support them however you can. As always, good luck on your hunts and stay gritty.
This is Ty Stubblefield, and you're listening to the Gritty Bowmen.
Gritty Bowmen.